Lee's here, he can fix it. There it goes. I'm also not used to speaking behind anything. I'm always used to being able to roam about. So anyway, welcome to the profession. My office is actually right next door at the 1731 College Building on the second floor. I'm always open and happy to meet and speak with students, to chat about the profession, chat about whatever it is that you may at least know. Well, not an open, not whatever, but as much as it relates to the social work profession, coursework, and the like. I'm always happy to chat about that. Feel free to send me an email. It's the best way to schedule an appointment with me. I do teach across the curriculum, so undergraduate, master's, PhD, and I also teach in Korea. So I have, I may see you, I may not see you anymore in the course of your study, but welcome. It's good to have you here.
Socialized.
I do. I don't know about you.
Thank you for that, Kurt. I'm going to start talking about the curriculum, and as you go through the next couple of years and are feeling oppressed by exams and papers and presentations and more exams and papers and presentations, keep your eye on that vision. Thank you. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to spend a few minutes talking about your foundation year, sort of what the logic is, what some of the main objectives are, and then you'll hear a little bit more about the sequences. And it is through this process that you will become that social worker that Dr. Foster has suggested you want to be. So let me just list for you what the learning objectives are for the foundation year. Let me just preface that by saying, not to scare you any more than Dr. Foster has, but often in the last week or so, and I have advanced practice students, so I'm with you to the very bitter end, right before you're walking across the stage and ready to be that professional MSW. I sort of look around the class and people say, oh no, do I know enough to do this? To go out and make those decisions about whether or not people should retain custody of their children, or someone is grown up to be discharged from a hospital, or all the incredibly important profound kind of decisions that you make. And I always say, yes, you are. In 20 years, you'll have a different perspective, but you are entering the profession with a passion and a commitment and an energy which is irreplaceable. And the first year of your studies is the year in which you lay the foundation to then gain the more advanced skills that you will take into practice. So let me just really read to you from the handbook, and you can find the handbook on our website. The major objectives for your first year, which is the foundation studies course, that at the end of it, you will demonstrate that you possess the values and the ethics of the social work profession, some of which Dr. Foster has talked to you about. And you will gain those knowledge of the values and ethics in the classroom, through field instruction, and through all of the experiences that you have as a student. You will have a wide array of foundation practice knowledge and skills that are prerequisite for competent generalist practice at the multiple social systems level at which social workers function. You will have the knowledge and the skills that are required for promoting social and economic justice among populations at risk, especially those who are likely to have experienced discrimination and oppression. Again, this all goes back to our value base in the profession. You will have an understanding and an appreciation of the uniqueness, strengths, and contributions of diverse populations. You will have an in-depth understanding of the dynamics of human behavior and of social, economic, and political forces across a range of systems, including individuals, families, groups, institutions, organizations, communities, and societies. And the curriculum is designed in such a way as to get you there. You will have an understanding of social welfare policies, programs, and services within their historical and their contemporary context, and the knowledge and skills to analyze contemporary social welfare policies and programs, to influence policy-making process and advocate for change at the policy, governmental, and organizational levels. These all seem very grand and abstract notions, but as you go through your courses, you will see that these are, in fact, the knowledge and skills that you're gaining. You will have an understanding of how research informs social work practice and service delivery and social welfare policy, and an understanding of research methods and basic statistics that enables you to interpret and critically evaluate research reports and other sources of data and information, and begin to evaluate your own practice. You will be able to do this. And you will have a greater capacity for critical thinking. So with that, before you, let me invite two of my colleagues and wonderful teachers, Dr. Michelle Thomas and Dr. Wong Nguyen, to talk about their sequences, and then I'm going to substitute for two faculty who couldn't be here right now. So, Michelle, take it away.
Okay. Good morning again. I was talking about the direct. I was speaking about the direct practice sequence, which is I'm the coordinator for that, and that includes one foundation course, which is what I spoke about earlier, 722 social work practice with individuals and families, and 3 advanced year courses. And in the advanced year course, all right, let me work it out here. I'm sorry. Okay, so what were the things? It's 1 foundation year course and 3 advanced year courses, and those advanced year courses are all in the micro track. Okay. Now the reason why we have these separated like this, as far as what Dr. Carr was already explaining, is that yes, in this first year you'll be getting your foundation of what is generalist practice, what is generalist social work. Majority of you, if you're in the 2-year program, I'm assuming your bachelor's degree is in something else. Raise your hand if your bachelor's degree is not in social work. Exactly. Okay, so this first year is your introduction into what social work, what the field is about, what the profession is about. My bachelor's degree was in psychology, so I was very grateful for that first year because I really needed that introduction into what the heck is social work about, what is that field about. And in our course, as far as social work 722, practice with individuals and families, you'll get an idea of the communication skills that are necessary to work with individuals and families. Okay? How do I connect with someone? How do I work through the treatment process as far as, when I'm assessing a situation, implementing an intervention, and then closing out the process. That's what you'll be learning about in social work 722. And just as Dr. Foster, I'm sorry, he already stepped out, has explained, we're pulling all of these together so you'll understand, okay, I see what I'm supposed to be doing with individuals and families, and then I have organizations and communities, so now I can take it to the macro level, as well as with research, so forth and so on. Does that make sense? So, at this point, with individuals and families, like I said, you'll learn about communication skills, the treatment process, and the most important thing, I feel like, as a practitioner, self-awareness. That is going to be the key when it comes to being a social worker. Recognizing your own ideas and thoughts when it comes to working with individuals dealing with issues that may be different from yourselves. Just a tad different. Or issues that are so scary, it's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, so let's just run up out of here. So it's literally giving you that insight into self of what steps do I need to take when I am scared out of my mind and trying to figure out what to do with a person who obviously is dealing with something very serious. And that's what this class will be helping you learn about. We have 2 required course assignments for this particular course, and that's across the board. The 2 required assignments are the ICM paper, and it's the intercultural model. And basically that whole assignment is focused on building your self-awareness, so you'll hear a lot more about that in your class. And then the second assignment is the psychosocial assessment. So all of you will have the opportunity to actually conduct a psychosocial assessment. You will be required to, and I'm telling you this now because you'll probably hear about it again when you're meeting with Dr. Meyer about field education, but you will be required to select a client from your practice and conduct a psychosocial assessment. Now, we're not going to throw you out there. Don't get nervous. We're not going to throw you out there. We'll have a whole semester to prepare you for that psychosocial assessment. Okay. Did I have a question? Your question? Yes. Intercultural model. And that one is, like I said, focused on building your self-awareness, as I was talking about earlier. Are there any other questions about social work 722? Any other things I've spoken about so far? Hopefully you remember some of this. I know it's going to be a long morning for you all, but I also have an open door policy, and if at any time you have any questions, I am, like I said, in private practice. I would love working with clients. I work with individuals, couples, and families. On Tuesdays and Thursdays in my private practice, and I love bringing that kind of thing into the classroom. But I also like speaking to students about it who have, questions about, do I want to go into direct practice, or would I want to go into maybe micro practice and things of that sort. I've worked on both ends. I've been in practice for 10 years in program management, nonprofit organizations, as well as in now private practice. So if you ever just want to sit down and talk, I am in Destiny Shore 334, and I look forward to having those conversations.
This will definitely embarrass Dr. Thomas, but it will not surprise you to know that last year she was selected the instructor of the year by the student body. Thank you. Okay,
hello again. Can you hear me? Okay. I actually forgot to tell you earlier that I'm also a fiction writer. I write novel, and I just published my 4th book. It came out in March, and it has been reprinted 4 times. It's one of the top best-selling books in Vietnam right now. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think by writing fiction, I practice social work as well. So I encourage you to think of social work as something creative, something that is not only limited by working with clients and things like that. But as long as you promote social justice and social change and things like that, you can do that in many, many ways. Writing fiction is one, poetry, painting, those things as well. So anyway, back to human behavior in the social environment. This sequence has 2 classes, 1 and 2, and it's called the large system, and the other one is the small system. In the large system, what you're going to learn is how the environment, the social environment, interact with human beings in order to produce certain behaviors. And here you will learn how the political economy, the community, the residential settings, but also the media, also the discourse, also the social network that you are joining, how these things have to either serve as a protective factor or as a risk factor in making somebody having these problems. And here in this class, you will learn to conceptualize the concept of environment. Normally, when we think of environment, for example, we think of a location, but it's not necessarily that way, right? Especially in today's world, when you think of environment, it's so much more. Imagine the environment. It's the mental space in here. So So this summer, for example, I was in Vietnam, and I stayed in a Buddhist temple to learn how Vietnamese people think about mental health problems, for example. And we have the whole concept of, well, a lot of people are arguing that mental health is being Americanized and exported to other countries. In Vietnam and other countries, they don't think of mental health the way that we think. So anything that you assume to be universal and true, it's not so. It's not always so. It's defined by the environment that we're talking about. By environment, it can be physical environment, but a lot of that is also the mental, the social construction, and it changes with time, it changes with location, right? So that's what you're gonna learn in the first class, the large system. In this class, you also learn about different economic system, different political system, different religious systems, social system that will affect the way we define problems. And because of the different way we define problems, and it leads to different ways that we're going to develop solutions to these problems, right? So in the second part of the sequence, which is called the small system, that's where you're going to learn how a human being, given these larger systems, how you, for example, develop is different from you, for example, depending on your physical, your cognitive, your emotional, and behavioral capacity. And that, this course is pretty much, it's almost like if you've learned psychology before, then this may be a repeat for you, but you haven't learned those things. And this, it's essentially a human development course. So you're going to learn, for example, why a teenager would behave that way compared to an elderly person toward the same situation. And you will learn about the development of human beings across the life course and how the development will play out in different situations. So these two classes will serve as foundational knowledge for you in order to practice. I think you learn the first one in the fall semester and the second one in the spring semester. I teach two sections for each class in my office across the street. And I also have an open door policy, so come in and talk to me anytime. Questions? Oh, I'm 205 on the second floor. That will across the street. Thank you.
I'd like to use the example of what is a teenager, after what he or she does. Anyone here has children? I have a son who's 20. You know the answer to that is to torment the parents. Maybe that's not fancy enough. I think I was the chair of the search committee when we hired Dr. Nguyen, and I remember being absolutely thrilled not only to be able to attract such a stellar scholar, but also I was so excited to have a creative artist on our faculty. So we're very excited to have her with us. Okay, I am not Dr. Hawk, and I'm not Dr. Fram, each of whom is a sequence chair. But I asked them to send me some language and said, if you were here, what would you want to say? So, let me begin with Dr. Fram's thoughts. She is the sequence chair of the policy. And she's on sabbatical. That's semester, that's why she's not with us. And I will say, just before saying what she was going to say, I have seen this over and over and over, that students come in and say, I'm going to be a psychotherapist, and they leave being a policy advocate because of contact with our wonderful policy teachers, and particularly Dr. Fram. So keep an open mind. So here is what she would like to say to you. Few of you come to the program with the goal of doing policy, and few of you come probably really excited about learning about social policy. But policy shapes everything we can and cannot do in social work practice. as an aside, which is why in my advanced practice courses, I have policy-related assignments. So, one, we need to understand both policy and its influence, and to have an impact on policy to make it better. Most policies that affect our clients can be developed with little or no input from social workers, and that's part of that. Dr. Foster was talking about sort of that table metaphor where people who, clients who want to be able to have that place at the table. This is also another sort of metaphorical place where we need to be at that table, policy development, and there are not enough of us there. Although on this faculty, we have a remarkable number of people who are in national policy. So, the foundation policy sequence provides in the fall through 741 a knowledge about a range of social policies and skills for critically analyzing policies from a social work and social justice perspective. Also, knowledge about the history and the context of social policies, including the roles that social workers played in developing those policies. There's also attention to agency policies, identifying and analyzing policy within your field placement, and understanding how those policies shape your clients' experiences. You are not in splendid isolation in a room with clients in practice. The policies, and those of you who are in practice or have been in practice, let's say some nobody heads, know that policy affects most of what you do in your direct practice with clients. So that in 741 in the fall is more sort of background and analytical focus on social policy. Then in the spring, you have 742, and that is a policy practice course. And the objectives for that are to build skills for policy practice, to use skills to make a difference on real policy issues facing South Carolina during the upcoming legislative session. So you are involved actually in processes of policy development in South Carolina. That's one of the great advantages to being in Columbia, which of course is the state capital. You participate in a semester-long advocacy project, including presentation of the project at Social Work Legislative Day in the spring. You also are going to have an opportunity to talk with elected officials, members of local advocacy groups, and other stakeholders. So, Dr. Fram says, the bottom line is policy practice is not optional for any social worker, no matter what kind of practice you're going to go into. Whether you want to provide family therapy, work in the areas of substance abuse, families in crisis within child welfare, communities struggling to overcome institutional racism, etc., you have an ethical obligation to work to improve social welfare policy. And this is why people change their minds when they meet her and our other faculty, she says, it's actually fun. And draws on many of the same skills you need for effective practice with individuals, families, groups, and communities, relationship development, conflict negotiation, problem identification, intervention planning, and effective communication. So, do you have any questions that I may or may not be able to answer about the policy? Yes?
Who are the other professors that are primary in policy?
Well, that's a good question. Right. So some of the people who do policy may not actually be teaching this fall in policy. So one of the people who we did not meet is Dr. Christina Andrews, who is, in fact, a national leader right now in the Affordable Care Act, is planning a large, actually international conference on that, and is working also with Dr. Terry Brown in healthcare policy. Dr. Fram works in the area of food insecurity and has been working on policy in that. She's around, she's just not teaching this fall. Who does that? Dr. Foster, I would say, really works in the area of policy in terms of community development, but it's a little bit farther afield. I'm sure I'm not answering that fully. Take a look in the little book and see, and then email me if I haven't answered you. Okay? Yeah. And anything else that I cannot answer, I can agree with that. Okay, so let me be Dr. Hawk, which would really be kind of cool. He is pretty cool. But he had to go to another meeting, and so he asked me to say this to you about research. We all got into this profession because we wanted to help people. But how do we know if we are really helping people? How could we know? What if our help could be more effective for more people? What if we could help people the same amount, but for less cost? How do we know if an evidence-based practice is working for the client who is sitting across from us? The research sequence here is designed to help you address these questions for your own practice. In the first year, you will learn basic research methods and critical thinking skills that will sharpen your ability to understand and apply research literature. And again, I know research is not always first and foremost the motivation to come here for an MSW, but it's absolutely critical. It is critical, one, in terms of being effective and in having the kind of legitimacy that we need to practice. So here, all of the curriculum and the research is very applied. So you learn it for the purposes of improving your practice. Okay? In the second year, clinical students will take an advanced course that helps them. Dr. Hawk sent me this in an email, and he originally said that helps them violate their practice of clients. And then this morning at about 4 o'clock, he sent this, no, I meant evaluate their practice. So don't tell him I told you that. Okay. Evaluate their practice of clients at individual and group levels. Students in the macro track will learn program evaluation skills. Okay. Both of these classes are highly applied and will give you the opportunity to practice your skills in real-world situations. You can also do an independent study if you're interested in getting credit for that. You know, all of the faculty are involved in a huge, as you've heard, array of different kinds of research and are very open to working with students in independent classes. Finally, research is cool and you should do it, quote unquote. So, any questions about that research? Okay. So this is, I know that a lot of what we're doing today is going in one ear right out the other. So a little bit will sort of stick. Maybe some, concepts, ideas, or things that really kind of pique your interest, or you need to look into more. So we don't expect you to remember all of this. It's just sort of phase one in learning about what is going to be happening. Now, I have asked Lee Anderwood, who you will learn is one of our technology staff. Actually, Lee heads the office in the technology support of the college. I have asked him to stay here because, as you could see, we had some technological challenges this morning, and several faculty and presenters wanted internet access. So I asked Lee to stay here to see if there's any chance that we can see a video that Dr. Nancy Brown, who's the director of the addictions certificate, did for you. She's one of our sort of technology teaching gurus, and she did a video for you. She's taking one of her best friend's children to college today, so she couldn't be with us. So Lee, should we try this and see if, Lee says it's not going to work, but I begged him to stay just on the off chance that he could do that. He says it's not going to happen, but as a social worker, I'm never optimistic. My husband says I'm calling you. I don't give up until it's absolutely clear that it's not going to happen.
I said on that side.
But, that's Dr. Wolfer, who also is not here. He has taken on the responsibility recently of directing a doctoral program. And his interest is in the area of congregational practice and faith-based social work. So you might want to meet him as well.
Hi, I'm Dr. Nancy Brown, and I'm the director of the Drug Addiction Certificate Program and coordinator of the military certificate in social work, military social work. And I can't be there with you live today, and so now I think you're getting my face, and I keep drawing face, which I apologize for. And I also want to talk to you also about the gerontology certificate, so I'm going to cover all certificates all at once. And you can get the certificate with the addition of 9 credits of addictions courses to your regular plan of study. And if you're an advanced standing student, I think you are at 42, so you add 9, you graduate with 50, you graduate with 51 credits. If you're 60 credits, you'll graduate with 69 credits. And you'll work with me to develop a plan of study to pick the courses that you want and get them in the right semester and figure out when you're going to take them. For most certificate students, and this goes for all 3 of the certificates, most students pick up the extra courses in the summer. If you're a 2-year student or a part-time student, you pick them up in the summer. Or let's use full-time students as an example between your first year and your second year. For advanced standing students, because there isn't a lot of room to add stuff first in the summer and then in the year of your advanced study, it's usually the summer following your graduation that you finish the 3 courses. We transfer in 9 credits of a program into drug and addiction studies. So, for example, if you take 758, social work 758, dynamics of substance abuse as an elective, if you come into the certificate program, then it becomes a course that is only for the certificate in drug and addiction studies, which means you add back in an elective. I'm about to make this much more complicated than it needs to be. Basically, you have to remember that you can't transfer any more than half. In the military program, there are 4 required courses. Again, though, the 3 military courses are taken in the summer. There's an additional course that's required. We will count that in 2 places. So again, you can get the military certificate with the addition of 9 credits. The gerontology certificate, you have to add in 12 credits. Again, people focus most of their work in the summer between the first year and second year, or in the summer following. A lot of certificate students are part-time students, and so this works out well because they can kind of sandwich courses in here and there, and then get things done. The important thing to remember is that the military one, we require that you work with the military, and that can mean different things. You may have a military placement, either in a military hospital, working with military in a military agency like the VA, or the Veterans Counseling Center, but also you may have a placement where there's an opportunity to do a lot of your work with military, or you can focus on the military during the course of your field placement. For example, if you work in a homeless shelter and you become the designated person who does the work with homeless veterans, we would be able to work that out and improve that. for the certificate in drug addiction studies, it's easy to become fully enrolled. The only thing you need to do, actually this goes for the military, not the military, but the gerontology certificate, I believe works the same way as the drug addictions. You send, the drug addictions, you send me an email that says, I would like to request concurrent enrollment in both the MSW and drug addiction studies programs. And then I approve that and I forward it to the graduate. Dr. Catherine Wheat is the program director of the gerontology certificate. And if you have specific questions about that, I would make sure that you contacted her either by email. I don't have her phone number off the top of my head, but if you call the main number at the university, they'll be able to give, not the university, but our college, which is 777-5291, and ask for Dr. Lee, somebody will be able to give you her number and transfer call to her. The military one is a little bit different because we're limited to our current MSW students, and you have to write a letter of intent. Because if you're coming in, there's a good chance that you don't have room for these courses in your program prior to the summer. That sometime during the late fall, early spring, you will be making a request for these letters, and you have to be in good standing. You have to have a plan for working with the military the other thing is you may be advanced standing, so maybe you have substantial experience with the military, and you would then make a statement with us about how you will do this within your field placement. So people can contact me. I have a cell phone number that you can reach me at. That number is 803-622-2573. But I have to tell you that my voicemail gets full. So if you want me to contact you, my recommendation is that you send me an email, send me your phone number, and I will contact you. Or if you have specific questions that I can answer over email, that would be fine as well. A certificate is what I consider to be value added. When you graduate from the program with your MSW, you already have a specialization, although many of you heard that we are moving in our curriculum towards specialization, but you may have, one thing, like here's a degree. In our university, certificates count as degrees. It's a separate diploma that looks just like your MSW diploma, and it's value added. I think it's something to consider if you have the time and flexibility in your schedule to pursue one. I think if you know in your heart what it is that you're going to be doing, it just makes sense to do it. Anyway, I'm sorry that I can't be there, and I know you probably have a lot of questions, and I'm happy to answer them. Send me an email. My email is pretty simple. It's nancy.brown@sc.edu, and you can, just send me an email. The other thing is go on the web and look at the information before you contact me. Go on the web and look at the information. One of the things is that both the certificate in drug and addiction studies and the certificate in gerontology are interdisciplinary, and so there's courses that occur both within and outside of our college. Military courses all are within our college, and so they're all offered, and the majority of them are, again, are offered in the summer. Email me. If you have questions, I'm out of town until, probably I won't be back in the office until Wednesday. I'll be traveling until then, and so maybe wait until next week to try to get a hold of me, but I'm really happy to answer your questions. The other thing is you can just stop by my office. I'm on the first floor of Desture in 121, and just pop your head in and say hello, and just knock if my door shuts. Just if the door shuts doesn't mean I'm not there. Anyway, I look forward to meeting many of you over the course of your studies here at Carolina and the College of Social Work. And enjoy the rest of orientation. By the way, I'm at orientation with my girlfriend's daughter, who's a freshman at USC Newport. So I'm having to go through orientation in another university. So anyway, have a great day. Enjoy yourself. Welcome to the College of Social Work.
I think this is not the time to take detailed questions about certificates. I think, as Dr. Brown said, contact her. You don't have to worry about it this week or next week, but as you're going through your studies, and if you think that drug and alcohol and addictions is an area that you really want to specialize in, or the military certificate is something that really attracts you, please do find Dr. Brown. Dr. Lee is going to be with us later today to talk about dual degrees. So we're at the point of break. Is there anything burning that you want to say before you get up and move around? Anything you want to ask? Or yes? Yes. Yes, we have a question about more detail about the part-time in Charleston or here? In Charleston. Fran Burke. Raise your hand. Ms. Burke is the coordinator of the program in Charleston. And so at lunch, you will have an opportunity to hang with her and get questions answered. Okay? And we'll, before you break for lunch, we'll remind you. Okay? Yes?
More general.
Sure.
Where do you get thought about
Who knows that? I didn't know. Oh, it is the Pendleton Garage. Do you know where that is? Yes. So you go down. It's under. It's the bottom level. Okay. You just go and get that. Thank you. Anything else again that I'm not answering? Someone else might be able to. Yes. Wait. This might be your question.
They're not ticketing today. The park can be